The stars looked peaceful through the wide windows of the USS Endeavour. Commander Jake Martinez stood on the bridge, watching the blue and green planet below them. Kepler 442b was supposed to be their new home. The planet had good air, clean water, and rich soil. Perfect for humans to build a new colony. Jake smiled as he heard children laughing in the hallways behind him. This mission was different from his military days. Families came along because the trip would take 3 years. Scientists, engineers, doctors, and their kids all lived together on the big ship. It felt more like a floating town than a military vessel. Dr. Lisa Harper walked onto the bridge carrying a data pad. Her twin daughters Amy and Beth followed close. Behind, Amy was 8 years old with bright red hair, always asking questions about everything. Beth was 10, quieter but just as curious. They loved coming to the bridge to see the stars. "Commander, the mineral scans are complete," Lisa said. "The northern continent has exactly what we need for building materials. We can start the first settlement there." Jake nodded. "Good work, Doctor. How long before we can send the first teams down?" 2 days. "Maybe 3 if the weather stays clear." Amy tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mom, why are those stars moving so fast?" Lisa looked where her daughter pointed. Through the window, tiny lights moved between the stars. They grew bigger every second. Lisa's smile disappeared. "Those aren't stars, honey," she whispered. Jake grabbed his communicator. "All stations, this is the commander. Unknown ships approaching fast. All families to safe rooms immediately." The bridge suddenly filled with noise. Alarms rang everywhere. People ran through the hallways. Steve Johnson, the ship's pilot, jumped into his seat and started working the controls with fast fingers. "Commander, I count 15 ships," Steve said. "They're big. Much bigger than us, and they're not answering our radio calls." Jake watched the alien ships get closer. They looked like giant metal insects with long arms and glowing eyes. He had never seen anything like them before. "Try all frequencies, Steve. Tell them we're peaceful explorers." Maria Santos, the chief engineer, ran onto the bridge. "Sir, they're scanning us with some kind of energy beam. It's going right through our shields like they're not even there." The alien ships surrounded the Endeavour. One of them was huge, maybe 10 times bigger than the human ship. Strange symbols glowed along its dark hull. Suddenly, a voice came through the speakers. It sounded cold and sharp, like breaking glass. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. Do not resist or you will be destroyed." Jake stepped forward. "This is Commander Martinez of the USS Endeavour. We are peaceful scientists and colonists. We mean no harm to anyone." "Your intentions are not important," the voice replied. "You are now property of the Zephyrian Empire. Prepare to be boarded." Amy grabbed her mother's hand. "Mom, I'm scared." Lisa picked up both her daughters. "It's okay, girls. Stay close to me." Jake turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Protect the families at all costs." The human ship shook as alien boarding pods attached to the hull. The lights flickered. Through the windows, Jake could see strange creatures in silver suits cutting through the ship's walls with bright blue tools. Steve tried to pilot the ship away, but the alien vessels held them with invisible force beams. "I can't move us, Commander. They've got some kind of tractor beam." The bridge doors exploded inward. Tall alien creatures stepped through the smoke. They looked like giant mantis insects walking on 2 legs. Their eyes were black and emotionless. Long, sharp arms ended in claws that could cut through metal. The lead alien was taller than the others. Symbols on his silver armor marked him as their leader. When he spoke, his voice came through a translator device. "I am Fleet Commander Crixval of the Zephyrian Empire. You are now our prisoners." Jake stepped in front of his crew. "We have children on this ship. Families. We surrender, but please don't hurt them." Crixval tilted his head like he was confused. "Children? What purpose do these small humans serve?" "They're our kids," Jake said slowly. "Our sons and daughters, they need to stay with their parents." The alien commander made a sound like clicking metal. "Inefficient, the small ones will be separated for individual study. The large ones will be used for work experiments. Lisa held her daughters tighter. No, you can't take them from us. Mom? Amy whispered, looking up with wide, scared eyes. More alien soldiers came onto the bridge. They moved toward the families with mechanical precision. When Lisa backed away, protecting her girls, 2 aliens grabbed her arms. Do not resist, Crixval said. The small humans will not be harmed. They will be studied to understand your species better. Jake lunged forward, but alien claws pressed against his throat. Wait, you don't understand. Human children need their parents. We're not like other species. All species believe they are unique, Crixval replied with no emotion. Your young will adapt. Separation will make the adults more cooperative. The aliens began taking the children. Amy and Beth screamed for their mother as metal claws lifted them away. Throughout the ship, other families faced the same nightmare. Tommy Brooks, age 6, cried for his sister Katie as they were pulled in different directions. Lisa fought like a wild animal, but the aliens were too strong. Give me back my daughters. Please, they need me. The alien commander watched with cold curiosity as the human parents became frantic. He had conquered 43 different species across the galaxy. Separating families always worked to control the adults, but something was different about these humans. Their stress responses seemed much stronger than other species. Their voices changed. Their eyes became fierce in a way he had not seen before. Crixval dismissed his concerns. These humans looked weak and soft. Their ship had no real weapons. They would learn to obey just like all the others as the alien soldiers dragged the children away. Their parents' screams echoed through the corridors of the USS Endeavor. The Zephyrians had made their first mistake about humans. They thought taking the children would make the adults give up. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Fleet Commander Crixval stood in his command chamber aboard the massive Zephyrian warship. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and data from their latest conquest. The human ship looked tiny next to his fleet of 15 vessels. He touched a control panel with one of his sharp claws. A hologram appeared in the air, showing the faces of 5 other Zephyrian commanders. These were the members of the High Council, the rulers of their empire. High Council, Crixval said, bowing his head slightly. I report another successful capture. The human vessel has been taken without significant damage to our forces. Council leader Zex Prime, the oldest and most decorated warrior, leaned forward. Excellent. How many specimens did you acquire? 47 adult humans and 14 young ones. The adults show promise for labor experiments. The young ones will be perfect for studying how this species develops. Any resistance? Asked Council Member Nextal, a scientist who specialized in studying conquered species. Crixval made the clicking sound that passed for laughter among his people. Minimal. These humans are even weaker than the Betazoid colonies we captured last year. Their ship had no real weapons. They surrendered quickly when we threatened them. The council members exchanged satisfied looks. Over the past century, they had conquered 43 different species across 12 star systems. The pattern was always the same. Separate the families, control the adults through fear for their young, and within weeks the entire population would become obedient workers. What makes these humans special? Nextal asked. Why did Central Command want them captured alive instead of simply destroyed? Their home planet Earth shows signs of rapid technological development, Crixval explained. In less than 100 years they went from primitive flying machines to interstellar travel. Command believes they may have useful scientific knowledge, Council Leader Zex Prime nodded. Begin the standard procedures. Separate the adults and young completely. Start the compliance conditioning immediately. Already begun, High Council. The young humans have been moved to Research Lab 7. The adults are in Holding Section 5. Our scientists estimate full compliance within 10 standard days. The hologram flickered off. Crixval felt pleased with himself. Another easy victory for the Zephyrian Empire. These humans would join the thousands of other conquered beings working in their factories and research facilities. He walked through the corridors of his ship toward the research section. Other Zephyrian crew members moved past him with mechanical precision. His species had evolved beyond messy emotions millions of years ago. They reproduced through spore implantation and had no concept of family bonds. Young Zephyrians were raised in group facilities until they reached working age. In Research Lab 7, Science Officer Vextam was examining the human children. The lab was cold and white, filled with scanning equipment and monitoring devices. 14 small humans sat in individual transparent cells, each one watched by cameras and sensors. "Report," Crixval commanded as he entered the lab. Vex-Tam looked up from his data screen. He was smaller than most Zephyrians, built for science instead of war. "The specimens are unusual, Commander. Explain." "Their stress responses are much stronger than other young species we have studied. Look at these readings." Vextam showed him a screen full of numbers and graphs. A little human called Amy Harper was in the cell closest to them. Her red hair was messy and her face was wet with tears. She kept calling out, "Mommy, Mommy," in a voice that made strange sounds. "The young humans produce stress chemicals at levels that should be dangerous to their health," Vextam continued. "But they seem to be able to maintain these levels for extended periods. Most other species young become calm after separation. These do not." Crixval watched Amy through the transparent wall. The small human looked at him with wet eyes that seemed to burn with some kind of inner fire. It was unsettling in a way he could not explain. "Perhaps they need more time to adjust," he said. In the next cell, Tommy Brooks was hitting the walls with his small fists. The 6-year-old boy screamed for his sister Katie over and over. The sounds he made were loud and seemed to go right through the ship's walls. "There is something else," Vextam said quietly. "The adult humans in the holding section are showing unusual behavior as well." They left the research lab and walked to holding section 5. Through a viewing window, Crixval could see the human adults in their cells. The cells were designed for other conquered species, with basic sleeping areas and food dispensers. Dr. Lisa Harper sat in the corner of her cell, staring at the wall. But her eyes were not calm like other prisoners. They moved constantly, studying every detail of her surroundings. Her muscles were tense, ready to move. Commander Jake Martinez paced back and forth like a caged animal. His hands kept opening and closing into fists. When he looked toward the cameras watching him, his expression was fierce and angry. Steve Johnson, the pilot, was examining the energy panel that controlled his cell door. He ran his fingers along the edges, studying how it worked. Maria Santos was doing the same thing in her cell, looking at the walls and ceiling with the eyes of an engineer. "They are not behaving like proper prisoners," Vextam observed. "Most captured adults become depressed and passive after separation from their young. These humans seem to be becoming more active and alert." Crixval frowned. "Increase the sedatives in their food." "That will calm them down?" "I already tried that, Commander. The chemicals have little effect. Their bodies seem to be producing natural stimulants that cancel out our drugs." Through the viewing window, they watched Dr. Harper suddenly stand up and walk to her cell door. She placed her hands against the transparent barrier and stared directly at the camera watching her. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but somehow frightening. "I want my daughters back, now." The way she said it made both Zephyrians step back from the window. There was something in her voice that neither of them had heard from other prisoners. It was not begging or crying. It was a promise. "Perhaps we should increase security around the holding cells," Vextam suggested. Crixval made a dismissive gesture with his claws. "Unnecessary. They are behind energy barriers that no organic being can break through. These humans are just taking longer to accept their situation than other species." But as they walked away from the holding section, both aliens could still hear the sounds coming from the research lab. 14 human children crying for their parents with voices that seemed to echo through the entire ship for the first time. In his long military career, Fleet Commander Crixval felt a small, uncomfortable feeling that he could not identify. It might have been the beginning of doubt. Dr. Lisa Harper sat in her cell and studied every detail around her. The walls were made of some kind of metal that felt warm to touch. The energy barrier at the front glowed with a soft blue light. She had been watching the guard patterns for 6 hours now. Every 20 minutes, a Zephyrian soldier walked past. Every hour, they checked the food dispensers. In the cell next to her, Commander Jake Martinez was doing push-ups. He had been exercising for hours without stopping. Sweat covered his face, but his movements stayed strong and controlled. His breathing was steady like a machine. "Jake," Lisa whispered through the thin wall between their cells. "Can you hear?" "Me? Yes," he replied without stopping his exercises. "What did you find?" "The energy barriers work on a rotation cycle. They pulse every 30 seconds. During the pulse, there is a small gap in the field strength." Steve Johnson spoke from the cell on her other side. "I noticed that too. The power source seems to be in the corridor ceiling. If we could reach it." During one of those pulses, Maria Santos interrupted from across the hallway. "The real problem isn't the barriers, it's what comes after. We need to reach the children, and we don't know where they are." Lisa closed her eyes and thought about Amy and Beth. She could almost hear them calling for her. The sound made her heart beat faster and her muscles tense up. But instead of making her weak, it made her feel stronger than she had ever felt before. "There's something you all need to understand," she said quietly. "What's happening to us right now? It's not normal." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, finally stopping his exercises. "The aliens don't understand human biology. When they took our children, they triggered something in our brains. Something that evolution built into us over millions of years." Lisa stood up and walked to the energy barrier. She pressed her hands against it and felt the electrical tingle on her skin. Every mammal on Earth has it. When the young are threatened, the parents change. Heart rate increases, adrenaline production goes up. Pain sensitivity goes down, strength increases. "Like a mama bear protecting her cubs," Steve said. "Exactly, but humans are different from other animals. Our brains are bigger. Our emotions are stronger. When human parents go into protective mode, we don't just get stronger, we get smarter, more focused, more dangerous." Jake started doing push-ups again, but now Lisa could see the pattern. He wasn't just exercising. He was testing his strength, measuring how much power he had gained. "The aliens have conquered other species by separating families," Lisa continued. "But those species probably don't have the same parental responses we do. They think taking our children will make us weak and obedient. They're wrong," Maria said. Her voice sounded different now, calmer but more intense. Through the walls, they could hear other human parents talking. Everyone was experiencing the same changes. Their bodies were adapting, preparing for something that the aliens couldn't understand. Meanwhile, in Research Lab 7, the 14 human children were creating their own kind of chaos. Amy Harper had figured out that the monitoring equipment couldn't handle multiple loud sounds at the same time. She started teaching the other children a game. "Okay, everyone," Amy whispered to the others. "When I count to 3, we all scream as loud as we can. Ready?" 10-year-old Beth helped organize the younger children. Katie Brooks, Tommy's 6-year-old sister, clapped her hands to keep rhythm. Even the smallest child, 4-year-old Danny Miller, understood the plan. 1:3. 14 young voices screamed at the same time. The sound was so loud that several monitoring devices sparked and shut down. In the control room, Zephyrian technicians jumped back from their screens as feedback screeched through their equipment. "Again!" Amy shouted. The children screamed a second time. More equipment failed. The Zephyrians watching them looked confused and worried, but the children weren't just making noise. Amy had noticed that every time they screamed together, lights flickered throughout the ship. The alien technology was connected in ways that made it vulnerable to certain sounds. Beth discovered something else. When she cried for her mother, the translation device in her cell made strange clicking sounds. She realized the aliens' language was based on mechanical clicks and buzzes. Human emotional sounds were confusing their communication systems. "Listen," Beth told the other children. When we cry, their machines don't work right. We need to cry louder and more often. Tommy Brooks, despite being only 6 years old, came up with the smartest idea. What if we all cry for our moms and dads at exactly the same time? Maybe they'll hear us. The children didn't know that their voices were actually traveling through the ship's air system. In the holding cells, their parents could hear faint echoes of their voices. Every time Lisa heard Amy and Beth calling for her, her body changed. A little more. Science Officer Vextam was becoming more worried every hour. He had never seen anything like this before. The human children were not becoming calm and obedient. Instead, they were working together in ways that seemed impossible for such young beings. The adult humans were even more troubling. Their vital signs kept getting stronger instead of weaker. Dr. Harper's heart rate was now 40% higher than normal, but she showed no signs of fatigue. Commander Martinez had somehow increased his muscle mass in just 12 hours. Most disturbing of all, the humans were studying their prison with the focus of trained scientists and engineers. They were learning the ship's systems faster than should be possible. Vextam called Fleet Commander Crixval to the research lab. Commander, I believe we may have made an error in our approach to these humans. Crixval looked at the monitors showing the human children. They were singing now, some kind of rhythmic chant that made the ship's lights flicker in time with their voices. They are just making noise, he said dismissively. Young beings always cry when separated from their caregivers. They will tire themselves out soon. Sir, with respect, I don't think these are normal reactions. I've been studying the data from 43 conquered species. No other young beings have shown this level of coordination and intelligence under stress. On the screen, Amy Harper was teaching the other children how to count in unison. Their voices rose and fell together like ocean waves. Each time they reached the highest note, more monitoring equipment failed. And the adults are not responding to containment protocols, Vextam continued. They should be becoming depressed and passive. Instead, they appear to be entering some kind of enhanced physical and mental state. Crixval made his clicking laugh sound, but it seemed forced, impossible. No species can improve under stress. Stress weakens all organic beings. In the holding cells, Dr. Lisa Harper stood at her energy barrier and smiled. She had just figured out exactly how the alien technology worked. And more importantly, she had figured out how to break it. The Zephyrians were about to learn that they had made the worst possible mistake. They had threatened human children. Science Officer Vextam had not slept in 26 hours. He sat in his laboratory staring at data that made no sense. The numbers on his screen showed impossible things happening to the human prisoners. Dr. Harper's strength had increased by 60% in just 2 days. Commander Martinez could now do physical tasks that should require mechanical assistance. Even more troubling, their brain activity was showing patterns he had never seen in any living creature. Vextam pulled up files from the ship's database. For the past century, his people had studied thousands of different species. He searched through medical data, looking for anything similar to what the humans were experiencing. Nothing, no other species had ever shown these changes under stress. He walked to the observation window overlooking Research Lab 7. The 14 human children were still working together. Amy Harper had somehow taught them to harmonize their voices in a way that created vibrations throughout the ship. Every time they sang, lights flickered and computer systems experienced small glitches. Young Tommy Brooks was drawing pictures on the wall of his cell with his finger. But they weren't random drawings. Vextam realized the boy was mapping the layout of the ship based on sounds he heard through the walls. A 6-year-old child was creating accurate engineering diagrams. Beth Harper had figured out how to make the food dispenser in her cell work faster by humming at a specific frequency. She was teaching this skill to the other children. They were learning to manipulate alien technology by trial and error. Vextam felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. He activated his communicator and called Fleet Commander Crixval. Commander, I need to speak with you immediately. It's urgent. I am busy reviewing battle plans for the next sector, Crixval replied with annoyance. Whatever minor problems you're having with the specimens can wait. Sir, these are not minor problems. The humans are displaying capabilities that exceed our previous data on their species. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show humans to be weak and primitive. Vextam looked at his screens again. Commander, I am requesting permission to show you evidence that contradicts our intelligence reports. There was a long pause. Finally, Crixval spoke. Very well. I will come to your laboratory in 1 hour. While Vextam waited, he decided to do something that was against normal procedures. He accessed the ship's main database and searched for information about Earth's history. What he found made his hands shake. The database contained thousands of stories about human parents performing impossible feats to save their children. A human mother lifting a vehicle weighing thousands of pounds to free her trapped child. Human father fighting off multiple large predators to protect his family. Parents walking through fire, climbing impossible heights, or surviving in deadly environments when their children were in danger. The database also contained military reports about human soldiers in combat, when fighting to protect their families. All homes, humans showed endurance and determination that made no biological sense. They could continue fighting with injuries that should have killed them. They could work together with coordination that seemed telepathic. Vextam realized that the Zephyrian Empire had been studying the wrong humans. Their intelligence came from observing individual humans in normal situations. They had never seen what humans became when their children were threatened. When Crixval arrived at the laboratory, Vextam was ready with his evidence. Commander, look at these readings from the adult human prisoners. The screen showed vital signs from all the human parents. Heart rates, brain activity, hormone levels, and muscle tension were all far beyond normal ranges. But instead of showing signs of exhaustion or breakdown, the humans appeared to be getting stronger. This is impossible, Crixval said. No organic being can maintain these levels without collapsing. That's what I thought too. But I found something in Earth's historical database. Vextam showed him stories of human parents performing superhuman feats. Commander, I believe we have triggered something in these humans that their own people call hysterical strength. But it's not hysteria, it's evolution. Crixval studied the data with growing unease. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that human parents possess emergency capabilities that activate when their offspring are in danger. These capabilities override normal biological limitations. On the monitors, they watched Dr. Harper examine her cell barrier with the focus of a master engineer. Steve Johnson was somehow sensing the electrical patterns in the walls. Maria Santos had figured out the ship's gravity system just by observing how objects fell in her cell. Look at this, Vextam said, switching to the children's monitor. The young humans are not just making noise. They're conducting experiments on our technology. Amy Harper was showing the other children how to create specific sound frequencies. Each frequency caused different reactions in the ship's systems. The children were learning faster than adult alien engineers. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed red in the corridors. What's happening? Crixval demanded. A Zephyrian guard's voice came through the communicator. Commander, there's been a malfunction in holding Section 5. One of the energy barriers has failed. Both aliens ran toward the holding cells. When they arrived, they found something that made them stop in shock. Dr. Lisa Harper was standing outside her cell. The energy barrier that should have been impossible to break was flickering and sparking. She had somehow overloaded it during one of the power pulses she had been studying, but she was not trying to escape. She was working on the next cell's barrier, freeing Commander Martinez. Her movements were precise and confident, like she had been designing alien technology her entire life. How is this possible? Crixval whispered. Vex-Tam watched in amazement as the human woman used her bare hands to manipulate electrical systems that normally required specialized tools. Commander, I don't think these humans are the same species we studied before. Or rather, I think we've never seen what this species truly becomes under extreme stress. One by one, The human parents were freeing each other. They worked together, with perfect coordination, as if they could read each other's thoughts. Steve Johnson guided Maria Santos to the main power controls. Jake Martinez tested each freed parent to ensure they were ready for whatever came next. When all the adults were free, they formed a group and began moving through the ship with purpose. They were not running randomly. They knew exactly where they were going. They're heading for the research lab, Vextam realized. They're going for their children. Crixval activated the ship's internal security. All guards to Research Lab 7, stop the escaped prisoners. But as the human parents moved through the corridors, something extraordinary happened. Zephyrian guards tried to stop them, but the humans fought with a ferocity that defied explanation. Dr. Harper, a peaceful scientist, moved through armed soldiers like she was born for combat. Commander Martinez lifted security doors that normally required mechanical assistance. Steve Johnson disabled weapon systems with his bare hands. Maria Santos rerouted power systems while running at full speed. Vextam stared at the monitors in disbelief. Commander, I don't think our weapons are designed to stop beings in this state. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Crixval felt genuine terror. As he watched the human parents fight their way toward their children, they were no longer the weak, primitive creatures his people had captured. They had become something else entirely. The corridors of the Zephyrian warship filled with the sound of running feet and shouting voices. Human parents moved through the ship like a force of nature, unstoppable and focused on one goal. Behind them, alien guards lay unconscious or trapped. Under damaged equipment, Dr. Lisa Harper led the group toward research. Lab 7. Her scientific mind had memorized the ship's layout from studying the power flow patterns. Every turn, every corridor, every security checkpoint was mapped in her head with perfect clarity. Commander Jake Martinez ran beside her, carrying a plasma cutter he had taken from a disabled guard. His military training had returned stronger than ever, enhanced by the protective fury burning in his chest. Steve Johnson and Maria Santos followed close behind, their technical skills now operating at levels that amazed even themselves. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Zephyrian crew members pressed themselves against the walls as the human rescue team passed. Afraid to get in their way, in the command center, Fleet Commander Crixval watched his security forces fail. One by one, on every monitor he saw the same impossible sight. Humans doing things that should not be physically possible. How many guards have they defeated? He asked his communications officer. 17 squads, Commander. They're not even using weapons. They're just unstoppable. Science Officer Vextam stood beside Crixval, studying the data streaming across his portable scanner. Commander, their vital signs are still climbing. Dr. Harper's adrenaline levels are now 300% above normal human maximum. Commander Martinez is operating on less than 4 hours of sleep, but shows no signs of fatigue. This makes no sense, Crixval growled. Deploy the heavy combat units. Use maximum force. Sir, Vextam said quietly, I don't think maximum force will stop them. I think it will make them more dangerous. On the monitors, they watched 12 armed Zephyrian soldiers surround the human group in Corridor 7. The aliens raised their energy weapons, confident that superior numbers and firepower would end the escape attempt. Dr. Harper looked at the soldiers blocking her path to her daughters. For a moment she stood perfectly still. Then she spoke in a voice that carried through the corridor like thunder. Move! Now! The lead Zephyrian soldier activated his weapon. You will surrender or be destroyed. What happened next would be discussed in Zephyrian military academies for generations. The human parents moved as one unit faster than the alien soldiers could track. Lisa Harper disarmed 3 guards before they could fire. Jake Martinez crushed 2 energy rifles with his bare hands. Steve Johnson somehow scrambled the targeting systems of 4 weapons simultaneously. In less than 30 seconds, 12 elite Zephyrian soldiers were unconscious on the floor. The human parents continued toward the research lab without even breathing hard. Impossible, Crixval whispered. Those were our best fighters. Vextam looked at his scanner readings. Commander, I'm detecting something else. The human children are responding to their parents' approach. Their stress levels are decreasing, but their coordination is improving. In Research Lab 7, Amy. Harper had heard the alarms and knew what they meant. Everyone get ready, she told the other children. Our parents are coming. The 14 children had spent the last 2 days learning to work together in ways that confused their alien captors. Now they prepared for the moment they had been planning for. Tommy Brooks had finished his map of the ship's layout. Beth Harper had discovered how to overload the cell barriers by humming at the right frequency. Katie Brooks had figured out how to shut down the monitoring cameras. Even little Danny Miller had learned to jam the door controls by crying at a specific pitch. When the human parents reached the research lab, they found the heavy security door locked and guarded by 20 Zephyrian soldiers. These were not regular crew members. They were elite warriors with advanced weapons and energy shields. Commander Martinez stepped forward. Last chance, open the door and let us take our children. The lead guard raised his weapon. You are prisoners of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender immediately. Lisa Harper moved to stand beside Jake. Behind them, Steve Johnson and Maria Santos took positions on either side. The other human parents formed a line, their eyes burning with determination. You made one mistake, Lisa said, her voice calm, but terrifying. You took our kids. The battle that followed lasted only 3 minutes. 20 elite alien warriors with advanced technology against 8 human parents armed with nothing but their protective instincts. When it was over, the Zephyrian guards were unconscious, and the security door was torn from its mounting brackets. Dr. Harper ran into the research lab and saw her daughters in their transparent cells. Amy, Beth, Mommy! Amy screamed, tears of joy running down her face. The children had already prepared their escape. As their parents reached them, all 14 young voices sang the frequency that Beth had discovered. The cell barriers flickered and failed, one by one. Lisa gathered her daughters in her arms, feeling the protective fury in her chest transform into overwhelming relief and love. Around the lab, other families reunited with shouts of joy and tears of happiness, but their escape was not complete. Alarms still rang throughout the ship. They were still trapped aboard an alien vessel in deep space. Fleet Commander Crixval appeared in the doorway with Science Officer Vextam and 50 more guards. But when he saw the human families together, something strange happened. The humans no longer looked like the unstoppable force that had fought through his ship. They looked like ordinary people holding their children. You will return to your cells immediately, Crixval commanded. But his voice lacked its usual confidence. Dr. Harper stood up. Still holding Amy and Beth, when she looked at the alien commander, he actually stepped backward. No, she said simply. We're going home. You are prisoners. You have no ship. You are surrounded by my fleet. Commander Martinez smiled, and the expression made several alien guards retreat. Commander Crixval, you should probably check your long-range scanners. The alien commander's communications device suddenly crackled to life. Fleet Commander, this is sensor control. We have multiple human ships approaching, large vessels, military configuration. Through the research lab's windows, new stars appeared in the darkness. Human warships responding to the distress signal that Chris Walker had managed to send from the planet's surface. Admiral Patricia Wells' voice came through the ship's communication system, speaking in perfect Zephyrian. Attention, Zephyrian vessel. You are holding human civilians, including children. You will release them immediately or face the consequences. Crixval looked at the human families, then at his defeated guards, then at the approaching fleet. For the first time in his military career, he understood that he had made a terrible mistake. Vextam stepped forward and spoke quietly to his commander. Sir, I recommend immediate surrender. We have learned something important today about human beings. When their children are threatened, they become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. As the human fleet moved into position around the Zephyrian ships, Dr. Harper held her daughters close and smiled. The aliens had learned something that would spread across the galaxy. Humans might seem peaceful, but touch their children and discover what millions of years of evolution had created. The most protective parents in the universe.